We are live. Hello everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining. Today we are here with Vrenda Divani and Nishita Shah. And I'm sure you know them from other webinars that we have hosted here at Sohom as well as Are You Prana. It's been quite a bit since we last saw each other and since we saw all of you.
We had a hurricane.
We had a hurricane.
Yeah. We had our hands full for a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. So we made the decision that we wanted to bring these webinars back to you based on your request. So thank you for your patience and thank you for being back here. I am Sandy Viteri and I'm your Ayurvedic ambassador at Soho Mountain Healing Resort. And thank you so much for joining. So why don't we start by seeing where people are dialing in from? If you wouldn't mind just putting there in the chat what city, state, country you're coming from or dialing from. We have a few of you. It's always fun to see where
it's always fun
dialing from. Let's see. Can everybody hear us, Chris?
I have no idea. I've never done a webinar Zoom meeting before, so I have no idea.
So Chris, if you want, hit the chat, and usually you're able to give them permission to chat. The little arrow next to the chat will give you.
We are learning so much.
Under the main menu, yeah. They should be able to.
Maybe you can type the question too.
There are a couple of things next to Q&A too.
Attendees can chat with everyone, yeah. So you guys should be able to just pop into the chat where you
Brazil! Germany! We can see you now. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, where else?
Richmond. I just want to give you some love.
Wow,
lots
of South America.
South America. For those of you that don't know, I'm from Venezuela, so woohoo, go South America. Florida, way to go. Okay, wonderful. California. Excellent. Beautiful.
Ah, nice Siler City, North Carolina. Got a couple locals here. Yay.
Renuka was with us at Sohom just a few weeks ago.
I live in Nashville, but I am from Colombia.
Hi, Carolina. I know you.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining. We are going to be doing these webinars again every single month. So get ready. You know, we are going to be seeing each other here. Feel free to sign up for these webinars. But today is one specifically that we're going to be talking about pranayama, breath work, and the importance of that breath. And I really wanted to start by just giving a little bit of background. So for all of you to really understand the importance of it, because just like our heart beats and we don't really pay attention to that, right? It's just there, it's happening in the background, it's keeping us alive. But as important as our heart, it is also our breath, what we call our pranayama, or also the energy force, right, that keeps us alive. So if you didn't know this, when babies first, and you do know this, she's our MD gynecologist here, but
with 2 babies myself.
Exactly. But when the babies come out of the birth canal, before they even cry, the first thing that happens is they breathe. And it's because of that new temperature that they're coming into. They're coming from being cozy right there in the womb, and then they come out, and it's before they even cry, they breathe. So think about the meaning of that, right? It's like that first breath that you get. So being able to connect to that breath and being able to feel it in your lungs, in your tummy, and being able to breathe properly is so important. Some of you already know, but my husband went through lung liver transplant, and he brought a new whole different appreciation for me for what the breath really means. And the role that it plays in our life is really keeping us alive. So today we're going to make a beautiful effort about connecting with our breath, and then we're also going to be learning about how our breath helps us with the different doshas. Nishita and Brenda are going to be talking about that, and we will go into a breath work that I'm going to be guiding you through, and how to do the alternate nostril breathing. So at any point in time, if you have questions, please feel free to jump in and ask on the chat. In the meantime, let me just go ahead and have Brenda and Nishita introduce themselves. So that way you can get to know them, and you're going to see them often here as well.
Sure. So hi everyone. My name is Brenda. I am one of the, actually both Nishita and I are practitioners at Soha Mountain Healing. We see clients, we do your design calls, we support you before, after, during, the whole 9 yards. We also are actively participants in the Living Wisdom membership, which is something you get after your stay at Soha Mountain Healing. We design them, we design the experience, we lead them. And so, yeah, we're lead practitioners in our ecosystem. I also, in my training background, I'm also an obstetrician gynecologist, and I've always loved blending Ayurveda with Western medicine. And I obviously have a specific interest in women's health and children, and just overall just, you know, connection with the concept of the Divine Mother or the lunar energy, and bringing that as a balancing mechanism in our lives.
Beautiful.
She's pretty awesome, guys. If you don't know her, I can speak from personal experience. But my name is Nishita. As Brenda said, I'm also one of the lead practitioners at Soha. But kind of beyond that, I'm also our yoga director at the Ayurvedic Institute, so our sister entity, Dr. Ladd's school. So at Soham specifically, outside of doing Ayurvedic consultations, I actually help to design your yoga practices. So in the mornings when you guys come in as participants and clients, you actually are going through a yoga protocol. So I work very closely with our team and understand, you know, kind of what part of your Panchakarma you're at and how your yoga practice can actually deepen the Panchakarma component of it. So I help to design and facilitate and hold all the yoga programming at Soham. And I love yoga. So Brenda's kind of niche is women's health, and a lot of what I do is using yoga and Ayurveda holistically and together to support healing on both the physical and the subtle pathways of our being, of our whole existence.
And cooking.
Oh, and I love to cook. Sorry. I love to cook. So with Living Wisdom specifically, I do our monthly cook along. So I have a huge banner that I think anything can be made Ayurvedic with the right ingredients and with the right intentions. So yeah, that's me.
Wonderful. I couldn't think of the two best people here. This conversation is going to be amazing. So remember, if you have questions, put them in the chat. So let's start by talking about prana itself. So what is prana? For those that do not know what the word means, can you tell us what that means?
I'm actually going to give that question to her because she is so passionate about prana and so eloquent. I'm going to let her answer that.
Sure. So in a very, very short way to explain prana, prana is our life force. So it is literally the reason we are alive. I love how Dr. Ladd really describes what prana is as beyond just life force. It's actually our constant companion. So we can see this manifest physically, prana being our breath. So just as Sandy was mentioning, the very first kind of subtle element that we bring into this world and connect with is our breath, which is our direct connection to prana. And it's the last thing as we are departing this planet, right, from a physicality perspective. It's the very last thing that leaves the body ultimately, right? So from a physical place, the prana is our breath. Now, beyond that, prana really is the thread that ties us all together, right? So the fact that I feel connection with the trees, with these wonderful people, this bench that we're sitting on, right? All of this subtle connecting force is through prana. And so classically from a yoga perspective, we say that this whole womb, this cosmic womb in which we have been situated into is held in the container of prana. So my ability to connect, my ability to see beyond even just this physical body, and my ability to be expansive and feel connection beyond the realms of the physical plane is all because of prana. So we have this very physical, my breath is prana, but my identity, my being moves beyond the physicality of my whole self and connects me into understanding that I am part of a greater whole, and that greater whole is prana. So I like to say with our students, prana is everything, but it's nothing at the same time, right? So finding this duality of like subtle and gross and physical and subtle, all of that is prana ultimately.
Beautiful explanation. I loved it. Amazing. Now, there is also the word pranayama or pranayama, right? What is the meaning of pranayama? Is that the action of the prana? So that way, for anyone that does not know what the meaning is, can you explain that?
Yeah, so I think, again, more not traditional, but modern take, we use the word pranayama as just breath work, Sandy. But when you actually break down the Sanskrit, the roots, we have prana, right, which is life force, our life, things like that. But the word ayama actually means to lengthen. And so Dr. Ladd really describes pranayama as not only lengthening our breath, like our physical breath, right? So when we are doing and practicing breath work, we're working on the volume of our, breath intake and breath output. We're working on the like tone and power of our lungs, working into the musculature of the lungs. But again, if we kind of take a step back and see like what is prana ultimately, pranayama is beyond just lengthening the breath, but it's lengthening the quality of my life ultimately, right? We may not be able to say like, oh yes, I will live 107 years, right? That may not necessarily be the case, but the quality in which I live can absolutely get increased into a very beautiful manifestation with the support of breath work.
Beautiful. Now, talking about that connection, right, and the quality of that breath, oftentimes we're either having a very shallow breath, or if we're nervous, maybe it's just like that. You feel your heart bumping and you don't even know, and you get nervous. So can you tell us a little bit more about that breath that actually brings quality into our system at the cellular level?
Yeah, so with our breath, there's so much you could look at, like where you're breathing into, the rate of your breathing, the quality of your breathing. All these are like so important to just kind of be aware of. It's not about like changing anything, as my spiritual teacher talks about. He's like, don't try to change anything, just become aware of it, and naturally things will start to shift. But with the breath, it's about, like the deepest, most nourishing breath is when it goes into your belly and even your lower abdomen space, into the navel. All of the channels, there's like 72,000 nadis in the body, like channels that prana is moving through in our body. They all coalesce into the belly button and to the heart. Like that's a term that's used in, I guess, the yoga and other traditions as well, but they all kind of come here. So if you could bring the breath deep into this place, that is a deep, nourishing breath. And, for a lot of, if you look at how children breathe, they're just on their back, you'll see they're breathing into their belly. If you look at adults, it's very much into the chest space. And there's actually quite a bit of research looking at, like, when your cortisol levels are high, you breathe into here. When you bring your breath down here, it actually just like consciously bring your breath into your belly, you're going to bring down the cortisol level. So just being aware of your breath, being cognizant of it, using it as a cue, as almost a vital sign, like as about where is your breath, in addition to respiratory rate, what is the quality in these many, many ways is really, really powerful. And so with quality of life, it's bringing nice, slow, deep breaths into your belly, breathing from your belly, speaking from your abdomen instead of it from your chest, will bring that quality. And then the other thing I like to talk about, and we all like to talk about, is the gap between breaths. Oftentimes we're just like breathing, but when we're in a deep, relaxed state, there's this pause at the end of the exhalation and then also at the top of the inhalation. And if you become cognizant of that, you'll lengthen that gap. And when you lengthen that gap, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system even more, thereby really improving your quality of life.
Yeah. So how about we walk them real quick on how to actually connect with that breath, right?
Yeah.
So how about we put our left hand on our chest and our right hand right on our tummy, right? And just bring the awareness to your breath. Like Brenda was saying, like there is no need to change it. No need to control it. You can close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. Just become aware. And now bring the awareness to sense where your breath is going to. Is it going all the way down to your tummy, to your belly? Or is it staying at the top on the lungs? Again, we're not changing it. We're just bringing the awareness. And to follow what Brenda just described, we're going to take an inhalation and bring that breath all the way down to our tummy, allowing our hand to rise as our tummy expands. And slowly we go with the exhalation. We can even count 4 going in with the inhalation. Very short pause and count to 4 as you exhale. And just very gently now open your eyes. What we were doing, it was just bringing the awareness on, doing exactly what Brenda was saying. Like, how do we feel it? How we go back to those days when we were little kids and we knew how to breathe, naturally, without even being taught how to do it, right? But then life gets in the way, we get busy, we're running all the time, type A type of people like us, and then we forget about it. Now, Brenda, tell us a little bit about the breath work and how a person that is a Vata typically would breathe. So we can go through the Vata, Pitta, Kapha and see the different types of breath.
Yeah. So Vata is ether and air, right? So they're very airy, they're very mobile, very active. So they're going to breathe most into the upper parts of their lungs. So they're moving around, so on and so forth. The Pitta person is going to be a little bit more centered because of the focus, not because they're like centered spiritually necessarily, but just because of the focus. They're a little bit more grounded and rooted, and so they're more, but they tend to hold stress too. So they're more like in the chest area, middle lobes or so. And Kapha people, I feel like Kapha is just not appreciated enough in today's society. They are your happy-go-lucky people. They are the ones that, are loyal. They're the ones that are they hold love and compassion in their lives. And so they're going to breathe a little bit from the lower parts of the lungs, perhaps even into their belly, because, we have every team member should have a Vata, Pitta, and Kapha person. The Kapha people on our team, they're the ones that are like, okay, they're like an elephant. They're just steady and they keep going. They don't get stressed out as much and to the point where they get off kilter. So they're more in the lower lungs, more slower pace too. Vata's gonna be faster pace, and then Pitta's in the middle.
Nice. Now, Nishita, whether you're Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, so let's start with Vata. Let's say that you're breathing like, all that airy. What is some of the different types of breath work that you would recommend for each of the doshas to bring that body back into balance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will say the little belly breathing that we just did, that is best for everyone at any given point in time, okay? We will often say, like, if you can do what we kind of call that diaphragmatic breathing, or 3-part breath, where you're breathing into the belly, the chest, and up into the, or like rib cage and then up into the chest. Like, if we can drop into that as much as possible, then that's where healing happens, okay, y'all? So, even if it's just like a quick 1 minute remembering, it's like, oh shoot, I'm not doing my diaphragmatic breathing or my deep belly breathing at work, just like drop into it, right? You don't have to like stop everything that you're doing, like even while you're on your computer and stuff, you can drop into that, which I think is just powerful in and of itself. But kind of moving in from like a doshic perspective, for Vata people, anything that's going to slow their breathing down, because as Vrinda was saying, they tend to breathe a lot faster, just like naturally, right? Like if you're a Vata predominant person, your breath rate's going to be a little bit higher. So anything that's going to slow the breath down, alternate nostril breathing, we would actually say from an Ayurveda yoga perspective is, you know, Dr. Ladd calls it the king of pranayams or breath work for Vata dosha. So that one's really great, the alternate nostril breathing.
And we're going to be teaching that in just a second, so stay tuned for that one.
Exactly. For Pitta, we actually want to focus in on the slow intake of breath. If you notice, it actually cools you down a little bit more. So if you can actually like breathe in through the mouth, even just like this, right? It just like, it feels nice and cooling, and Pitta, of course, is like very heat and very fiery. So oftentimes just like, again, slowing things down. I think the intensity that comes from Pitta often requires us just to like take a beat, right? Otherwise that intensity just like burrows a hole, and then before you know it, you're like, you know, laser sharp focus, and you've kind of lost even sometimes the purpose of why we're doing things, because you get so focused in on just like checklist, right? And then you like forget why you even have the 25-point checklist, right? You're just so focused in on getting things done. So again, taking a beat and pausing, slowing down the breath, but focusing in on like a cooling inhale and maybe lengthening the exhale even, right? So instead of just doing like a 4-4, right? 4 inhale, 4 exhale. For a Pitta person, I may do like a 4-8, right? So inhale for 4, but then exhale for 8 to really elongate that exhale, which just grounds, you know, that Pitta down. And then for Kapha people, you know, one of the things, like I agree with Vrinda, like Kapha gets such a bad rep in the, you know, I think especially if we don't quite understand the beautiful aspects of Kapha, we kind of see it from a very like modern lens, and it's like, oh, it's sticky and it's dull and it's heavy and all these things, which absolutely it is, right? But for Kapha people, we want to actually like ignite a little bit, right? Because it's water and earth element. And so for Kapha people, I may actually say like, hey, let's do a longer inhale because that's going to be a little bit more activating to the system. So, you know, we said 4-4, right, for Vata, maybe 4-8 for Pitta, but then for Kapha, I might do like an 8-4, you know, so a longer inhale, because that's going to bring a little bit more heat, a little bit more of like an activatingness aspect to it. And the other thing for Kapha I also want to just emphasize is getting deep into the lungs. So there's like pranayams that we would call like Bhastrika, for example, because Kapha tends to like have a lot of, that it does have a sticky quality to it, right? And in that stickiness, it might be hard to release. So being able to do like deep breathing can really help to like move a lot of like that Kapha out to feel the lightness aspect of it.
Nice, beautiful. So we got different examples for the different types of doshas, which is great. So if you're identifying with any of the doshas, or even you know your doshas already, just you now have a different type of breath work that you can do. Now, Brenda, why don't you tell us about the benefits of breath work? Because, you know, we all know that a lot of more people are talking about it and they're doing it. And it's becoming more mainstream, I would say. But there are physiological benefits to actually connecting to your breath and doing it, you know, from improving your health to actually calming down your nervous system. If you're nervous, if you're whatever that may be. So can you tell us like some of the different benefits?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you named some of the biggest ones. So stress is the biggest one. And then also, so in Ayurveda, there's this concept that where prana is blocked, that's where you'll get pain, because vata, like it can be a number of things, but you know, vata constricting, it could be kapha blocking, it could be pitta, you know, leading to holding or inflammation blocking the prana. But wherever prana is blocked, you get pain. And I have like the perfect example of this just from this morning. So my daughter, she has the weakest ligaments ever, but she I don't know, she did something to she sprained her elbow, I would say, at the very least. And she has this like cast on it, and she also plays the violin. And it was definitely better this morning, but she's one that she's Vata as well as incredibly Pitta, but Vata too, and she holds fear. And so she was playing the violin, she was like kind of having some anxiety around it and panic, and she's like, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. And I really got her to focus. I was like, Dia, I was like, I know it hurts, I don't doubt that it hurts, but can you let go of the fear around it? Beautiful. Can you let go of the stress that you're holding around it? Can you just let that go and just be present with the pain? And of course, it took a few tries, but eventually she started to play, and she got through the song. She has recital coming, and she got through the song, and I was like, was it as bad as you thought it would be? And she's like, no, it wasn't. And I was like, it's because you let go of the fear, you let go of the pain, and that's such a, like, just a real life from this morning example of how fear, pain, and like fear blocks pain, inflammation blocks pain, kapha blockages, like the heaviness of kapha can block and create pain. And so that is, you gotta let prana flow, otherwise it creates these blockages, it creates pain in a gross form, but it prevents that life force from getting to tissues, which is why, when we do panchakarmas, we do it every single morning. That's such an important part of our daily routine is breath work every single morning. And even in our, check-ins, we're cueing in like, where is the blockage happening? Emotionally, where's the blockage happening? We gotta release that for healing to happen.
And just to like tack on to that, like you all may have experienced, like a yoga nidra or something like that, just from going to a yoga studio. And that's quite literally in a yoga nidra practice, what we're attempting to do is like using the breath as a very focused methodology of taking prana to a very specific place in the body. So that's why we also say like prana and breath are so deeply connected. I do this little like activity or exercise with some of the students at the Institute where it's like spend 3 weeks and understand where you have pain or dark areas or sticky energy points in the body, and then use specific pranayams for 3 weeks to, like target those areas. And I've had, a lot of students and clients even at Soham where it's like, I'll use menstrual pain for it as an example, right? Like just by practicing a very focused breathing in the moment where like, a massive like pain receptor is getting activated or whatever. And like within 4 or 5 minutes, like the pain has like really relinquished, And so if we can really use the breath as a guiding force, I feel, you get huge benefits in that. And then, sorry, really quick, Chris, do you mind hovering over the Q&A? I think with the webinar, we get a lot of questions there. All right. Oh, okay. And then looks like some folks are in the chat as well.
Yeah. Can a person cycle through the different dosha predominances based on different stages in their life?
Yeah, I mean, there are different phases, like the early years are kapha, then pitta, and then vata is towards the end of life, yeah, so. Mm-hmm. And then for fever, yes, shitali is definitely cooling. Fever is a complicated one. Sometimes you want the body to warm up and not cool it down. So, that's like a whole topic, like we spend days talking about just the concept of fever, but in general, yes, shitali can cool the body. Yeah.
We would say, like with infection though, you don't want to do a lot of breathing because it can actually move the infection deeper into the system. So I would probably back off a little bit.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for those questions.
And Radhika, blockage is physical and mental. Like we believe they're so connected. Often where there is a physical blockage, there's probably a mental blockage, and where there's a mental blockage, there's a physical blockage being created, but so definitely on all levels.
It's like the chicken or the egg.
Right.
Which one came first?
Right. So to that point, let's talk a little bit about the more subtle side of the breath work that I feel like there's not a whole lot of conversations about, but we know that Dr. Ladd says that whenever we have suppressed emotions, they tend to go into our organs and actually govern a given organ. And we also have the chakra system within the body, the ones that are known, that they're the 7 chakras, but there are actually more within the body and outside of the body. So you were alluding towards that whenever we are not breathing properly or we have emotions that are stagnated, they probably stagnated somewhere within our system, our chakra system. And if we don't mobilize that prana within it, then that stagnation feels heavy, which then feels heavy also at the not so subtle, but at the body part. So what are some of the recommendations that you would have when it comes to really mobilizing the prana all throughout? And some of you may know and have heard of the Kundalini, which also allows us to reach higher levels of consciousness. So how do we clear the different levels within the body to get to higher levels of consciousness?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, the pain and the blockages and where the prana flows is beyond the chakra system. You know, it's like in every tissue. And so one of the things we guide our students to do, and even our clients, is if they're having a pain in the knee, can you just become fully present with it as if you were a mother with a child? And can you breathe prana to that part of the body, wherever it is? So whether it's in the chakra system or specifically like in specific parts of the body, beyond that, just bringing like conscious breath to that in your meditation, visualization, just sending that, because that does send prana. Like the prana channels are very connected to the mind channels, and the Manovahashrotas is all pervasive. It's like throughout the body. And so you can, through your mind, send prana to any one place. And then same thing with then on the chakra side, you know, just bringing a sense of breath and openness. Like you could almost visualize that area just opening, and then that energy flowing a little better, you know. So I think just breath and visualization, and then just observing what is that holding, trying to protect. And when that emotion comes up, breathing into that, not trying to push it away. Like the point isn't to get over it, but to move through it and seeing what it has to teach us, because there's so much learning from pain in our lives.
Yeah. And you brought emotions, so it's not only the physical pain, but also the emotional pain, the mental, the spiritual, right? Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's why, just to kind of like tie it in a little bit, what happens at Soham specifically is like, you know, as practitioners, we're constantly making sure that the clients who are with us, like really using the breath to release all of that, because it's so, I shouldn't say it's rare. I've never seen it happen where you're literally only focusing in on like a physical something, right? There's always something deeper, which whether we've acknowledged it or like don't even realize that it's manifesting. And the breath can actually be a vehicle to allow some of those emotions on the mental and on the subtle level to like come forth, right? So we may not even realize that we've kind of harbored some of these things, right? So I had a client one time who was working on a lot of like pitta and acne and, you know, just things like that. We got 90% of the way there, but like the 10% I couldn't figure out, you know? And then we started using breath work, and then in that came out that this individual had like 15 years of suppressed anger towards a family member. And then as soon as we kind of like first acknowledged it, right? Like even putting that connection, you know, together, and then using breath work and just, I think acknowledgement goes a really long way, but then using the breath work to really just push things out, let it come to the surface, so that way it's out of the deep tissues, you know, and then we can actually be present with it. And then like Brenda was saying, like tend to that emotion, nurture it, to then, you know, let the body be free of that even. And our breath can be such a vital tool in supporting that release process.
That is absolutely beautiful. And it goes to say that, you know, the work also that is being done at Soham is not only about the detoxification of the body, right? It's the detoxification of the mind, the body, and the soul. And we go through all these different practices, and whether it's breath work, whether it's yoga, meditation, and also the detoxification that goes with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the place is called Soham, you know, which is
That's
I am
right.
that, I am divine, I am source. And we just see all of this as just part of our journey back to that. So the detoxification is just part of the journey. But that is our goal. That is our ultimate goal, right? That's our ultimate hope for anyone that steps foot at Soham, is that they ultimately one day become enlightened, and we're just doing a small step in that process. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why I love our process so much, is because we don't shy away, you know, from acknowledging that there's more to the body than like, oh, my elbow hurts, or I don't have a bowel movement every day kind of thing.
Yeah. I see a question that just popped is, which dosha tends to hold their breath and why?
All three.
All three.
So, you know, in Ayurveda, different emotions are associated with different doshas. So fear and anxiety are big vata ones. Anger, irritation, frustration are big pitta ones, and depression and grief and sadness are very kapha emotions. But you can hold your breath because of any of these.
Yeah. Were you able to read that question? Chris,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind popping it up.
How
Yeah.
to sleep peacefully without fear of being alone.
Oh, I love that. So how to sleep peacefully without fear of being alone. I'm going to just say what Dr. Ladd says to that is, our breath is our greatest companion and is our true best friend. If we really acknowledge that prana is with us, then we're truly never alone. And the way I really connect prana is divinity, you know, right? It's that thread, and, you know, fill in the blank with whatever word resonates with you: God, universality, consciousness, doesn't matter, right? But that's ultimately what prana is doing, right? Prana brought us into this physical realm. Prana is going to take us back. Prana is going to allow us to experience that. And so if we can feel the presence of prana, then you're not alone, right? And you really feel that you are one with not only your physical bed, right, your bedroom, but there's so much more beyond just this one body. So, and it takes a long time. I'm not saying that this is happening overnight by any means, but the more I can cultivate that relationship with prana, I think you'll really begin to see that, and not even see, like you'll feel and you'll experience that you're never alone.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that is bringing that awareness. You know, as we were talking about that at the beginning, that breathing is like our heart palpitating, that we're not aware of it. So bringing that awareness that is one with the universe. You're breathing the universe. You're all with the universe. You're one with the universe. So feeling that oneness is never alone. And it does take practice. It does take a while, and we just start by bringing that awareness. The fact that you're in this webinar says
step
already
one.
a lot. That was step one, so that's wonderful. Let's see, we had another question there.
She's just asking about combinations of doshas. Yeah, so one, if you're Radhika, it seems like you have like the perfect questions. If you want to learn more about Ayurveda and dive deeper, just more as your own education, our sister company, liveayurprana.com, there's amazing courses. A membership is also there. There's like a foundations course. But to answer your question, yes, like you're going to honor both without aggravating the others. So I'll just give the example, like Shitali is cooling, right? But you don't want to do it all day long to the point where if your Vata also is going to cool out Vata too much and imbalance Vata, you may just do, you know, a certain set to cool down enough to the point where Vata doesn't get too aggravated. So yeah, you're going to honor both.
And finding that balance.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I would like to go into our breath work of today. And what we're going to do, the reason why I actually wanted to do it here in the kitchen, because we were debating whether we want to do it on the floor here. And the reason I really wanted to do it in the kitchen was to show you that breath work is something that you can take with you anywhere you go. So you do not have to be dressed in a specific way. You do not have to be in a specific position. And you can just be. That's exactly where you want to be. Like, and then just do it, right?
Can I just say one thing that makes me chuckle all the time?
Go
so
for
Dr. Ladd, why he loves Pranayama so much, he used to travel a lot when he was teaching, and he's like, I love traveling. I just get to do my pranayama on the plane, in the car, wherever I'm going, right? So just to add to that.
So it's portable. Let's just put it that way. It's
Exactly.
portable. While your treadmill, you may not be able to take it with you. This you can take because it's within you. Now, the breath work that we're going to be doing today is called the alternate nostril breathing. And there is 3 different ways on how I usually teach it. And I just say whichever comes, feels comfortable to you, that will be the one. But typically you will take your right hand, and I'm going to face it forward so you can see, okay? And then you're going to take your index finger and your middle finger, and you're going to bring it to touch the palm. So you're separating, you're creating a space in between your thumb and these 2 fingers over here. So if you're watching, try to follow with us. So you're going to take the index finger and the middle finger and bring it to touch your palm, okay? Then you're going to put it right in front of your nose. Now, right now I have the elbow down, and what I do, I block my right nostril, and you can see these 2 fingers are facing that way. And then I gently inhale through the left. When I get to the top, I stop or do a quick pause and switch. That is your alternate. And then you exhale on the right. Then you inhale on the right, switch, and exhale. So this is one of the ways. This one I actually find very, very comfortable, and I enjoy this one, okay? Now, the second way, because I'm going to teach you all 3, so that way you can select which one you like best, you can actually bring your elbow up. Now, I personally do not enjoy this one because I find that my arm gets tired, okay? But some people like it. Same thing, you're going to take your thumb and you're going to block the right nostril as these 2 fingers are facing the left. And very gently, you're going to inhale through the left, quick stop, switch, exhale through the right. Then you inhale through the right, stop, switch, and exhale through the left. Now, every time that you go up and down, that makes 1 round, okay? Now, I'm going to teach you the 3rd one, and this is actually my ultimate favorite one. And the reason being is because you're going to place your index finger and your middle finger on your 3rd eye chakra. And I usually begin by actually tapping into my 3rd eye chakra very gently, just to awaken my 3rd eye. This is the chakra for your intuition. And then just gently stop, right? And then you're going to block your right nostril, same thing. Inhale through the left, stop at the top, switch, and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, stop, and switch through the left. Once again, these are the 3 different ways of how you can do it. You know, my ultimate favorite, my medium favorite, which is over here, and my not so favorite. Which one is your favorite?
Oh, I like the last one, but Nishita, there's specific reasons why we would do each one of these.
There you go. You want to go over that?
Absolutely. So we would say if you keep your arm out, right, it's going to be a little bit more activating. So I would actually take a slightly more forceful breath. So again, if you're kind of feeling that like slow energy, or you're like rolling out of bed and you're like, I don't want to do anything, right? So you can kind of keep this nice and active. It's going to open your lungs a little bit more.
Your lungs actually, like your rib cage expands.
Exactly. So you can actually push the lungs out a little bit more. This one's going to be really nice and gentle. Again, that Vata kind of energy. And then this one is going to be allowing you to go even deeper into like a meditative perspective, right? So, you know, pick and choose, do all 3 and see. You can even like vary them day to day, morning to night, you know, things like that, which can be really lovely.
Nice. And there is also a meaning to it, and why we do the left on the side and the right and the right and the left. And it's because of the Ida and the Pingala. And these are the settled part of the body. So the Ida is our left side, and this is the feminine, is also the lunar. So anything that has to do with that calming, nurturing, loving, that will be our Ida side of the body. So what we do with the alternate nostril breathing, we are balancing out the left and the side and the right. The right one is the masculine, is the solar, is the go, 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 the get done. It's like, not that the feminine doesn't get things done, because we do, but it's more like that forceful, more energetic, if you will. So the whole purpose of this one breath work is that no matter what gender you are, you actually have both, and you have equal balance of it if you're able to just bring that breath to the left and to the right and just connect with it. If you're a man, connecting with your feminine side. If you're a woman, connecting with your masculine side, and just making sure that we bring that balance. You know, in Ayurveda, we're always talking about the balance of the doshas, right? So this is the perfect balance of bringing that breath work and connecting it with Ayurveda, right?
Yeah, actually, in the Vedic system, we actually don't consider feminine, lunar, masculine, male. It's very different, and it's actually something that people are like, wait, what? I'm not used to thinking of it that way. In the Vedic system, the masculine energy is connected to Purush, which is pure consciousness. The feminine energy is connected to Shakti, which is all of the active energy in this world, which has both solar and lunar as part of the feminine. So it's very different in the Vedic system compared to, say, like Western perspective on masculine and feminine. In the Vedic system, the feminine, true feminine energy is all that encompasses all the activities of this active world. So to be balanced in the feminine, you have to have a balance of solar and lunar. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just gonna love all day long and, you know, kumbaya. No, that's not true Shakti. Shakti is also courageous. It also takes a stand. It also destroys when we need to destroy. So, that's how we bring balance in our body to Shakti energy.
Beautiful, excellent. So taking that practice at any point in time of your day, no matter where you are, no matter what you're wearing, just bringing that awareness that if you're feeling whatever energy, like if you want to bring balance, if you want to get rid of stress, if you want to just mobilize the energy, this is a great breath work that you can do anywhere you are. So we have another question here. When is the ideal time to perform pranayama? Is there a limit to doing pranayama in a day? And how long should we wait after meals to perform breathing exercises?
So I'm gonna just throw this out there. Pranayama can happen every single moment of the day if we bring awareness to our breath. Okay, singing, pranayama. Meditation, pranayama. Having a meaningful conversation, pranayama. Everything can be pranayama. Okay, but on a more practical sense, okay, we say that we like to do pranayama in the mornings. There's a very beautiful time of day called Brahma Muhurta, or like the time of God or time of divinity, which is right before the sun rises. So not necessarily sunrise, but it's a few moments before that. And if we're able to do pranayama at that time, we're actually, like, I like to say, like, exponential more benefit comes about, because you're connecting your prana with like the time of prana, which is really beautiful. And then when it comes to like doing it in the evening, I think there are definitely grounding pranayams that can help with sleep and just kind of inducing that gentle meditative state. So like the alternate nostril on a gentle perspective that Sandy just taught us can be really wonderful. I wouldn't necessarily do a very active breath at night. Otherwise your mind may be like ready to take on the day, but you should be sleeping instead. So just be mindful, right? There's so many different like breathing practices. So like if you've heard of Wim Hof, for example, wouldn't do Wim Hof right before bedtime, right? It's a great one to do in the morning to activate the system, right? Versus like grounding. So I would be mindful of the qualities of the breathing practices. And then in relation to meal times, take it from personal experience, have an empty stomach. If you do pranayama like as soon as you finished eating, you're gonna get a tummy ache. And that can look in many different forms, right? You're not gonna feel very good. So wait 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on like the heaviness of the meal to do it. But I would actually say if you wanted to do it around meal times, do it before, because it can actually help to induce hunger and induce appetite. So you may actually digest your food a little bit better if you do a little breathing practice prior to eating.
Nice. Now, before we open up to more questions, some people find it difficult to do pranayama because they find the practice, they learn how to do it, but then their mind stays busy. They are thinking about the to-do list, or they need to pick up the kids, or so they're on it, but then they're not fully connected. And that is one of the things that I would like to talk about here. Like, how can you bring that into a place where it's so intentional? And Brenda talked about Soham. So one of the recommendations is actually to use a mantra. And for this one in particular, when you're doing the alternate nostril breathing, it actually sinks in so beautifully. And I used to teach that at Soham in the mornings. We have at Soham morning practices. We start with a Homa ceremony where we connect with the fire element. Because the acne in our digestive system is the fire, so we connect first thing in the morning with that fire, also to cleanse the atmosphere. But then after that, we go into the activity room and we do breath work, yoga, and meditation. So I used to teach or actually do the practice of alternate nostril breathing, also using Soham as the mantra. And I love how you can actually go in when you're blocking your right nostril and you're inhaling, you think about so cross home. In that beautiful so home, all that I am, I am one with the universe. This person that asked a question about how not to feel lonely, that you're connecting with all that you are. Just do it with that mantra. Any other mantras that you would recommend just to clear the mind so we connect the breath with the mantra?
Dr. La loves Gayatri mantra.
Yeah, Gayatri mantra, which is really beautiful.
Yeah.
You want to share?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, this is like her hot spot, so I'll just cue.
You're so funny. So there's like a very specific one that I don't know the exact beats, but basically Gayatri mantra is like Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha, and then you kind of inhale with that Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha, and then you can hold the breath Tat Savitur Varenyam, and then you exhale with Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, and then you can let go and then finish the mantra Dio Yona Prachodayat. So that's a really nice one. But honestly, like Sandy, I tell my clients, like, find words that have like positive reinforcement for yourself. I've had clients very like strong, deep Christian faith, and I'll tell them to just do like Alleluia, and connecting with that. So I would just, find even like sounds, right? It doesn't even have to be specific words, but there's this concept in yoga and Ayurveda called bija mantras, right? So seed sounds. So if you just Google like bija mantra or seed sound, and there's a chakra that you relate to, phrases, right? If you like write a lot, like, a lot of clients kind of release through writing, right? And so if there's a couple of like affirmations that you're working with in that regard, but just make it like a positive, like whatever represents positivity to you, just include that, right? I want like resonate with whatever mantra you're going to use.
Affirmations, that's beautiful. And for anyone who wants the mantra that she shared just now, if you want the whole detail and how to say it, send me an email. Just reply to the email invitation that we sent to you, and I promise you I'll get the mantra from Nishita and forward it to you, so that way you can practice it. Did you have any other ones that you wanted to share?
No, those are, I mean, I love Soham, so I do that, but I think anything, like she said, anything that like you deeply connect with, anything that inspires you, whatever, if you have an affirmation, your affirmation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're going to open up the floor for more questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and type them onto the Q&A or to the chat. So that way we have the two experts here with us today that can answer any of the questions for you. Let's see.
I don't think anything in the Q&A, but maybe in the chat.
Right.
Do these breaths go to the navel as well?
Like when you're doing alternate nostril
Yeah.
breathing or anything. Mhm.
I would. Yeah, tap
Yeah.
into
As
that.
much as you can bring it to the breath, the better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, where can I find the recording? So we will be posting the recording to the Soham website, the events section on the website, and we will post that within 48 hours after our amazing Chris has edited the video. But yes, and we will also send an email to everyone that registered, whether you attended or you didn't. We'll send you an email with the recording. Let's see, is it safe to do pranayama after surgery, specifically a pelvic laparoscopy?
It depends. You know, like I think the alternate nostril breathing is safe. I think light Brahmari is safe. But the more forceful, like, you know, the Kapalabhati, the Bhastrika, you're going to want to wait until they clear you for like lifting heavy weight, because you're using the same muscles for that.
Okay, beautiful. Any other questions? We have the last 5 minutes here. Let's see.
Chris, do you mind scrolling up? I feel like we may have missed one or two before.
Oh, there is one that we
Oh,
didn't
sitting
cover.
upright or lying
That's a good
down.
one.
That's a good question. So there's some that you can definitely do lying down. I think like deep belly breathing, the first one that we did, the alternate nostril, that can be done lying down. Depending on the pranayama, right? So Vrinda was kind of talking about some of the more forceful ones wouldn't really have the capacity to do lying down, because we also want to be able to like really engage like the whole body, right? So it can just be a little bit more difficult. So I would say it depends, but a lot of the gentle ones can definitely be done lying down, depending on what you're doing. How to sleep peacefully without fear. I think we answered that one. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Dental problems.
Oh yeah.
So this is where I will say we cannot make any claims to any medical conditions, but I will say Dr. Ladd says there's a pranayama to support every single tissue, every single emotion, every single blockage in the body, and however that manifests. But there are some very specifically for the mouth and oral health. For example, Shitali and Shitkari are excellent to do just to support general, just mouth stuff.
I wouldn't recommend using it in lieu of brushing your teeth.
Exactly.
Or,
those things are still part of dinacharya. All right, maybe one more popped up. Oh,
Let's see.
love back to you, Lori.
And sleep. Thanks so much. Great. All right. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. It was our pleasure to walk you through this pranayama webinar, and we will be sharing with you the upcoming topics or themes that we're going to be covering. So be on the lookout for our emails. And in the meantime, just share the love with everyone and feel free to send us an email so we can go ahead and send you that breath work. I hope you have an amazing week. We love you, and hopefully we'll also get to see you at Soham.
yeah.
Bye.